We'll start at 11 o'clock, still 5 minutes are there.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, 4 to 5 minutes are there. Yeah, shall we start?
Yes, sir.
सर बस विभा मैडम इंट्रोड्यूस करा देंगे सर.
Okay, sir. I, Vibha Pandey, on behalf of Computer Science and Engineering Department, SSTC Bhilai, welcomes each and every one of you for being with us today on 1 week online joint TTP 2021. We are very pleased to be able to welcome our today's speaker, Dr. B. Acharya, graduated from Marathwada University, Aurangabad in Electronic and Telecommunication Engineering and completed master's degree from NIT Rourkela in Telematics and Signal Processing. And he also received his PhD degree from NIT Rourkela. He is currently serving as assistant professor in Department of Electronic and Communication, NIT Raipur. He has 15 years of teaching and 3 years of industry experience. He also guided several MTech and PhD research scholars. He has published more than 100 research publications in national and international journals and conferences. Now, I will hand over the mic to Acharya sir. Sir, please continue the session.
Very good morning to you all, and I'm very much thankful to Sri Shankaracharya Technical Campus for taking initiative and hosting this technical teachers training program. And particularly, I am thankful to Dr. Siddharth for giving me opportunity once again to interact you people. So already we have covered one topic, that is we have already covered one topic, that is lightweight cryptography for resource constrained IoT devices. So today we will discuss two topics. Clear? So we'll let us proceed. Just a minute. I will
Yes, sir.
give you that slide. Yeah, whether slides are visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, slides are visible, right?
Yeah.
So two topics I'll be covering. So first topic will be on IoT based remote sensing in agriculture and security in smart farming. And second part, quickly I will introduce you that hardware Trojan part that everybody we should know, and lot of research is going on throughout the world. So let us start with this topic first, then we will proceed to that. Then I don't know, we have limited time, how much I can cover, I don't know. Let us try to cover most of the topics. Clear? So in presentation layout, I will introduce you just the basics of IoT, need of IoT in agriculture. So I will not go that smart agriculture system, smart farming, because precisely it will be discussed one more session you have. So I will not go deep into that. So I will more focus on the remote sensing part, all those things. Clear? So need of IoT in agriculture. Okay, so this need of IoT in agriculture, you have one more topic, precisely you'll be thoroughly will be explaining to you. Clear? So next we will proceed to the remote sensing in agriculture. Clear? Next will be IoT based satellite remote sensing for agriculture. Then IoT based UAV application in precise agriculture. All these things one by one, phase by phase we will proceed. Then later on we will discuss about security and privacy in smart farming. Clear? So internet is a network through which computers and all over the world are communicated, and we can communicate and share information with anyone with the help of internet connection. So already we know that. So as technology evolves, we try to connect things instead of humans, which is known as the Internet of Things. Here things refer to the devices which are embedded with certain kinds of electronics, software and hardware, which are then connected to the internet. Clear? So the IoT includes the hardware and internet connection to the real-time application. Clear? So one of the application what we are will be discussing now. Clear? So the main component of IoT are sensors, actuators, embedded systems, and internet connection. Clear? So just you know, these are basic example of IoT in daily life. Clear? So benefits of IoT, we can easily access any important real-time information. So improves quality and efficiency, and top areas where IoT is used, already we have discussed that one even in last class: industry, transportation and cities, healthcare, agriculture and energy and many more. Clear? So we'll be discussing the application that smart farming today. Clear? So need of IoT in agriculture. Clear? As the population increases and the need of agriculture, because food also, the demand of food also day to day increased. Clear? So as the population increases, need of agriculture demand will also increase gradually. Clear? So increase in food production must be accompanied by suitable management of land and crop to stop the negative impact on quality and quantity of water, soil, land, and degradation, land degradation. Clear? So therefore, there is a need of monitoring crop growth and status of various soil and moisture parameters. So without going to the field also, you can monitor all those things through the IoT. Clear? So more accurate and precise monitoring of crop is not done by conventional method, but with the help of IoT, more accurate and precise monitoring you can do. Clear? So remote sensing based IoT appears as essential tool to meet above mentioned requirements. Clear? So in it we can monitor crop and soil property more precisely without going to field. Clear? IoT allows devices across a farm to measure all kinds of data remotely and privately, remotely, and provide this information to the farmer in real-time basis. So farmer at the real-time basis, he can monitor his own field and all without going to the particular field. Clear? So we can use IoT in agriculture for surveillance, like we use it to monitor crops, soil, and any other factors we can monitor using IoT, and we can also use it in automation, like we can automate anything which we are using in agriculture. Clear? So automatic means the sensors will monitor if the soil and all, if it is dry, automatically the pump will start and it will irrigate it. So it will provide water. Clear? So automatically, need not to monitor. The human interference is not required. Clear? So remote monitoring of farm conditions and infrastructure so it ultimately what? It saves time. Clear? So saving time and labor on routine farm checks. So we indigenously we have developed this different kits in our laboratory for our students for this smart farming. Clear? So that's what it's showing, the diagram of smart farming. Let us proceed. We will discuss one by one. So first it is that remote sensing. So what is remote sensing? Remote sensing is the process of detecting and monitoring the physical characteristics of an area by measuring its reflected and emitted radiation at a distance. Clear? So some examples are large forest fire. So if forest fire occurs, so remotely we can monitor it, particularly in forest where the fire is there. Clear? So large forest fires can be mapped from space, from the satellite. From space means it may be from satellite, or it may be by UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. Clear? So large forest fires can be mapped from space, allowing rangers to see a much larger area than from the ground. So if you see from the space, so precisely monitor which place exactly the fire it is there, and you can take action. Clear? So but from the ground is very difficult. Clear? So immediately from the space you can identify. Clear? So precise location. So large forest fires can be mapped from space and allowing rangers to see a much larger area than from the ground. Clear? So that's what it's showing, that figure of a remote sensing applications. So you can see here remote sensing we can do with the help of the satellite, or with the help of even with the UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. So what other things we can see? That we can monitor forest monitoring, we can do in industrial and safety monitoring, we can do security and surveillance. It is the application in agriculture monitoring and industrial monitoring also we'll be able to do. Clear? Even the data monitoring also we can do. Clear? So next topic is what is a precision agriculture. So precision agriculture entails a management strategy that uses a suite of advanced information communication and data analysis techniques in the decision-making process. With all these parameters, it will take decision. So, for the example, application of water, how much water you should provide, how much fertilizers you will, it's required, how much pesticides are required, how much seeds are required, clear, so labor, etc. So, which helps enhancing crop production and reducing water and nutrient losses and negative environmental impacts. Clear. So, AI techniques, am I audible to you all? Can anyone respond me? Yes, am I audible? Yes, anybody? Can anyone reply to me? Yeah, thank you very much, thank you. Okay, so artificial intelligence techniques, including machine learning, have been used to estimate soil moisture and crop predictions for automated and precise application of water, fertilizer, and herbicide and insecticides. Clear? So, what is remote sensing in agriculture? So, nowadays, there is no field of science or research which performs smartly without using the modern sensors. Clear? So, now the agriculture, so all these, with the help of these sensors, we are getting this information and we are processing it, and according to that, we are taking decision. Clear? So, now the agriculture applications have also included the many types of sensors for monitoring and controlling various types of environmental parameters such as temperature, humidity, soil quality, pollution, air quality, water contamination, and radiation, etc. Clear? So for all these parameters, there are different sensors are placed. Clear? So various types of sensors it's mounted on even on satellite, then UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, and ground-based to monitor crop and soil conditions. Clear? So with the help of all these sensors, we are getting all the information, and with the help of these data, we are taking the decision, and according to the remedies are done. Clear? So sensors which are used in UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, satellites, and airplanes are generally passive. Clear? So remote sensing systems which measures energy that is naturally available is known as passive sensors. So many ground-based remote sensing have active proximity sensors. Like green seeker have active proximity sensors which provide accurate and normalized difference vegetation index used for crop nutrient status assessment. Clear? So similarly, thermal sensors and microwave sensors which are mounted on satellite are also used in agriculture. But the cost of this the satellite, it is very high. If you will directly every time want to monitor through the satellite, the cost is high. But whereas if you will use this UAVs for remote sensing, the cost also it is very less. Clear? So thermal sensors. So many times compared to satellite, we prefer this UAVs on vehicles due to cost parameters. Clear? So thermal sensors measures energy emitted from a crop to estimate its temperature, which is used to estimate crop water stress, and irrigation requirements. Clear? So next it is the microwave sensors. So microwave sensors used to estimate soil moisture and crop water. Clear? Next, there are lots of other sensors which is used to estimate soil and crop conditions. Clear? So you can see this diagram. So it shows the remote based and aircraft and ground based sensing systems for precision agriculture. So you can see here aircraft based, and this is a remote based satellite sensing system. Then this is that ground based sensing system for the precision agriculture. Now next it is IoT based satellite remote sensing for agriculture. So images acquired from satellite used for the crop classification and monitoring of soil health. Clear. So climate parameters which are important for precision agriculture. Clear. So satellites which high spatial resolution, so imagery used in detection of crop disease and crop water stress. Clear. So now these data are transmitted to analytical tool for analysis. So based on that, we can analysis and we can take action according to that. Clear. So on the basis of this data, farmers can monitor the crop and take action based on this data. Clear. So despite of several advantages of this technique, the use of satellite image is still limited in commercial agriculture production because of limited flexibility in on-demand imaging solution. Clear. So, and I already have discussed this satellite. If you want to monitor, definitely it is a high cost and cloud cover restriction. If the part of in your farm that it is been covered by the cloud, then that part you cannot monitor it. So due to on-demand imaging solution and high cost and the cloud cover restrictions, it is not widely used. Clear. This satellite remote sensing, it is not widely used for the agriculture. Clear. So now IoT based UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle applications in precision agriculture. So unmanned aerial systems, or also its short form, it's called as a UAS, are now very commonly used. So drones, you have seen it. The drones are most widely used. That is unmanned aerial vehicle. Clear. So the unmanned aerial system are now very commonly used for monitoring crop fields. Clear. So carrying out several different sensors. So different sensors are they are fitting inside that unmanned aerial vehicle. So carrying several different sensors, that UAS can be used by farmers to identify which zones of the crops need improvements or some kind of input and react properly on time. Clear? So these unmanned aerial vehicles with the multispectral and hyperspectral and thermal sensors can provide on-demand information. Clear? So by using satellite crop monitoring during rainy season is problematic due to the cloud cover. But UAVs can be flown times during this season, and also even this if you keep the altitude of these unmanned aerial vehicles are low, if it's low, then the cloud also will not create any problem. So, but UAVs can be flown multiple times during this season to acquire accurate information on a CM scale as required, which is used in weight mapping and disease detection. So images acquired from unmanned aerial vehicles offer a low-cost alternative to expensive airplane and satellite products. Clear. So a variety of sensors can be used in an agriculture unmanned aerial vehicle depending on the different vegetation parameters that should be acquired. Based on requirement, you can mount those sensors in the unmanned aerial vehicle. Clear? So the sensors must meet are the low. The sensor should be low weight, the low energy consumption. Again, you should remember it should be lightweight, and it is low weight, and it should be low energy consumption, because all these UAVs are resource constrained devices. Clear? So energy consumption and small size combined with the ability to acquire high resolution imagery. So those sensors should have high resolution imagery. It should have capability to acquire high resolution imagery, and at the same time it should have low weight and lower energy consumption. Clear? And based on the above criteria, sensors may be of the following types. What was the first one? That is visible light sensor. Clear? So they are the most commonly used type of sensors for crop monitoring. So these sensors are relatively low cost compared to the others, providing high resolution imagery, are lightweight and easy to use and operate. So they are used in low power environment. Data image can be captured with captured in both sunny and cloudy days, and based on the climate conditions. There is specific climate condition is required to avoid inadequate or excessive exposure of the image. Clear? So now next one, it is of multispectral sensors and hyperspectral sensors. So it can obtain information related to the spectral observation and reflection of the crops in several bands. Clear? So this information can then be used to calculate vegetation index, vegetation indexes, and monitor the crop based on them. Clear? So vegetation indexes, what is vegetation indexes? So it is a mathematical expression that measured reflectance in many spectral bands to produce a value that helps in crop growth and chlorophyll content, and with the help of this we can estimate crop conditions. Measurement of reflectance or emissivity in near and mid-infrared bands is useful in developing indexes that help to understand plant characteristics such as water content and pigments and carbohydrate and protein contents. Clear? So reflected radiation in thermal infrared bands is straight forwardly identified with the plant temperature. Clear? Since plant temperature is connected to plant transpiration rate, so leads acquired from thermal reflectance information can be utilized to comprehend plant water status and other disease. So the third one, it is the thermal sensors. So it generates an image that displays objects based on their temperature and not their visible properties. Clear? So the thermal cameras use infrared sensors and optical lenses to receive infrared energy. Clear? Thermal image detects radiation from the crop and translate it to grayscale image using brighter and darker shades of heat representation. Clear? So numerous thermal imaging devices can be applied a color to these pictures, showing hotter items as yellow and cooler items as blue. Clear? So thermal sensors are utilized in specific applications like irrigation management or water stress detection. Okay? Hence, image processing views the images in different spectral intensities such as infrared and compares the images obtained over a period of time and detects anomalies, thus analyzing limiting factors and helps better management of farms. Clear? So you can see this monitoring of field with the help of this unmanned aerial vehicle. So you can see this crop features acquired from unmanned aerial system, or also it is called unmanned aerial vehicle. So that is crop features in the vegetation. What are those? The spatial position of an object, then vegetation color, then spectral behavior of chlorophyll, then moisture content, then temperature, then vegetation indexes, then nitrogen content. Similarly in soil, that soil content, soil moisture content, then soil temperature and soil biomass. Clear? So these are the crop the features. So next we will discuss that IoT based remote sensing in a greenhouse agriculture. So what is, first of all, what is a greenhouse? The greenhouse is a house like structure, so which is covered with transparent material. So with the help of this greenhouse, you can produce the crops which one you like, because in different season the different type of cultivation it has been done. But inside the greenhouse we can control these environmental conditions precisely, and we can cultivate different type of crops. Clear? So the greenhouse is a house like structure which is covered with transparent material, so in which temperature, required moisture is controlled by healthy plant growth. So by this farmers can grow any plant in any season by monitoring ecological conditions. Clear? So it is very, very much helpful. So that's why what this greenhouse agriculture, it gives a flexibility to the farmers, can grow any plant in any season by monitoring ecological conditions. Clear? So they can maintain these ecological conditions. So information related to weather, moisture content, and soil information etc. is collected from GPS. Clear? And sensors and uploaded to the cloud. Clear? So these information will be analyzed by the agriculture experts, and according to that, these agriculture experts, they can give their opinions. Clear? Then then the solution can be given to the farmer using SMS, and they can guide also. Clear? So wireless sensor networks, that is WSN, can be efficiently used to monitor and remotely control agriculture parameters such as temperature, humidity, and CO2 level, soil moisture content, and light to the agriculturists from the long distance. So remotely, by staying in long distance, they can control all those parameters. Clear? So by this, agriculturists do not have physically visit the field, so they need not to go physically to the field. So they, by staying it remotely, they can control all parameters and they can monitor all. Clear? So in this we need a IoT kit with internet connection, and kit comprises of sensors, motors, and IoT kit, internet connection, cloud account, and relay logic. So IoT kit consists of Wi-Fi microcontrollers and various sensors like CO2 sensors and soil moisture sensors, temperature sensors, and light sensors, etc. Clear? So you can see this the block diagram. Block diagram shows a remote sensing and controlling of greenhouse agriculture parameters based on IoT. So you can see here we have a greenhouse over here. Clear? So all these sensors are mounted over here, so that you can see this is the soil moisture. So and next was the light, and next is the CO2. Then the temperature sensors are there. All these sensors will give information from that greenhouse to the IoT kit. And IoT kit, what it will do? It will take all the informations and it will pass on to the personal computer. So personal computer will process all these data, and remotely that farmer or a end user will be there, and he'll be monitoring all those things. Clear? And based on these all data it is processing, that IoT kit the personal computer will process all data, and then according to that, it will generate the signals. Then IoT kit will give signal to this relay logic, and this relay logic will activate the DC motor and drive circuit to control. It will create the control signals, clear, and it will control all parameters, clear, whether it will give water and to end the light and all those, how much light it will allow sunlight to enter inside that greenhouse. It will all parameters it will control, clear. So sensors detect the signal, and the detected signals are given to the processor, which is there in the computer, clear. So then relay logic controls the output devices based on the input signal provided by the processor, clear. So with the help of computer, we can monitor the greenhouse parameters, and by having cloud account, farmers can get to greenhouse data, clear. So by this way, by using IoT and remote sensing, we can control greenhouse agriculture parameters. Okay, so that's what it's showing, a figure of monitoring and controlling of crop parameters, clear. So what are the challenges in this? So remote sensing provides lots of applications in precision agriculture, from land preparation to the harvesting, with the help of remote sensing devices like UAVs. So commercially available ground-based proximity sensors. So about this IoT-based smart agriculture, there will be one precise class which will be there. I think tomorrow it is there. So I don't want to go deep into that on smart agriculture. So however, many challenges need to face before the completely adoption of remote sensing technology, because it requires significant amount of technical skills. Without technical skills, how you will operate all those things? And it requires significant amount of technical skills and knowledge to process them for real world applications, clear. So use of unmanned aerial vehicles and tractor mounted sensors also involve the use of special software for data analysis and need professional operators, clear. So development of user-friendly systems is likely result in wider adoption of remote sensing data in commercial and non-commercial precision agriculture operations, clear. So next, again, it is most important part of all those things, that is security and privacy in smart farming. So the IoT technologies and the data-driven services they offer were beyond imagination just a decade ago. So now they surrounded us and influence a variety of domains such as automobile, smart home, healthcare, clear, and etc. In particular, the agriculture and farming industries have also embraced this technological invention, clear. So smart devices are widely used, clear, by a range of people, from farmers to entrepreneurs, clear. So these technologies are used in a variety of ways, from finding real-time status of crops and soil moisture content to deploy drones to assist with the tasks such as applying pesticide spray, clear. However, the use of IoT and smart communication technologies introduce a vast exposure to cyber security threats and vulnerabilities in smart farming environments, clear. Such cyber attacks have the potential to disrupt the economies of countries that are widely dependent on agriculture, like India. We are mostly dependent on agriculture. So even part of our economy is dependable on all this agriculture. So such cyber attacks have potential to disrupt the economies of countries that are widely dependent on agriculture, like our country, India. Clear? In a smart farm, an enormous amount of complex, dynamic, and spatial data gets generated from many heterogeneous sensors, devices, and equipment. So leakage of such an information, either through unauthorized access or by an insider, can cause potential threats. Clear? Leakage of soil, crop, and agriculture purchase information can cause severe economic losses to farmers. Clear? If such information is used by the competitor or hostile actors. Clear? So on a large scale, aggregating important agricultural information on a particular country is also a potential threat. We should remember that. So the data security and privacy is a very important requirement and one of the primary objectives to ensure the reliable operation in a smart farming ecosystem. Clear? So you can see here the block diagram, what it shows, the roadmap of cyber security research and challenges in smart farming. So ultimately, you can see here what are the security and privacy in smart farming. You can see here the security and privacy issues. What are those? It can be data security and privacy. The next issue, then authorization and trust issue, then authentication and secure communication is required, then compliance and regulation, compliance with the regulation also it is required. Similarly, what are those cyber attacks if it is data attacks? So it can be insider data leakage, it can be cloud data leakage, it can be false data injection, it can be misconfiguration. Similarly, other type of cyber attacks, what it is, the network and equipment attacks. So what are those? It may be of radio frequency jamming, then it can be malware injection, it can be denial of service, that legitimate user will not use his own resources, he will be denied. Similarly, bottleneck and the side channel attacks. Similarly, supply chain attacks, what it should be, that means in that it can be of third-party attacks. Clear? And it can be software update attacks, it can be data fabrication, it can be indirection attacks. Clear? So similarly, other relevant attacks are cloud computing attacks, and it can be cyber terrorism, it can be compliance and regulation and invalidations. Clear? So what are those open research challenges in this field? So it can be access control and trust and information sharing. Then it can be adversarial machine learning and AI. Clear? Then it can be next generation network security. It can be trustworthy supply chain and compliance. So these are all open research challenges in this field. Clear? So similarly, it shows that multi-layer smart farming architecture. Clear? So different, it shows different layers. So you can see here, first one is the physical layer. Clear? The physical layer, that interior, the sensors are there. That means it is soil information is gathered, humidity level it is monitored, CO2 levels are monitored. Clear? Next we have exterior sensors like temperature, wind, and rain. Clear? Similarly, if you will go to that edge layer, it is decision and the supply systems, data processing, real-time visualization, real-time monitoring. It is done using machine learning models. And we have cloud layer over here. So we have virtual servers and database clusters. Clear? So in this layer, we can do that even data visualization and big data analysis. And we have a network layer. Network layer, we have 5G networks. Clear? We have even Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, clear. So, and we have even microwave communication. So, over the past few years, Internet of Things has emerged because of the advancing research and practical applications. IoT is a system of enabling devices of communication and computing process through the internet. So it integrates devices and sensors in the common communication network. Clear? So the smart chips and sensors transmit important data deployed on the physical objects in the IoT. So you should remember, if these smart chips, it contains that hardware Trojan, then it will create all those malicious it will leak all informations, and it will do all those malicious operations. Clear? So before deploying this the smart chips in your system, you should check whether this chip it contains hardware Trojan or not. Clear? If that particular chip which is used deployed in your system in IoT, all the important information it will take and it will pass it on to the who has created it. Clear? So it is very important, prior to use these chips in your prior to deploying these chips inside your system, you should check whether that particular chip is having hardware Trojan or not. Look here, as I have told, in India we have only one fabrication lab in Mohali, Chandigarh. Again, it is 2002 technology, what is of 180 nanometer technology. So most of that we are depending on fabrication lab outside. So we are designing the chips, clear, and we are taping out for the fabrication to the different laboratory, different fabrication unit, fab labs, the foundries outside. So when you are sending our design, they are fabricating the chip and they are giving to us. Clear? So, and even for setting up a fabrication lab or the foundries are very, very costly. Fabrication labs costly. Clear? So each and every place we cannot set up the fabrication lab, but we have designed, due to this globalization, one side the designing of the chip it occurs, and they are taping out the chip to the fabrication lab for fabrication of the chip. So when you're getting the chip, we don't know. Without our knowledge, they can also put some hardware extra circuitries inside that. So those circuitries are called as a hardware Trojan. Clear? So if any chip you are using, without testing whether it contains this hardware Trojan or not, we should check before using deploying it in our system which is used in the IoT. Otherwise, all our secret information, it will be passed on who has created it. Clear? So the smart chips and sensors transmit important data deployed on the physical objects in IoT, so which are present in the environment everywhere. So the exchange of information interconnects the devices. So ultimately, if the chip contains hardware Trojan and we have deployed in our device and device is connected, it is used in IoT, all the secret information will be leaked. Clear? So the transfer of information must be safe and secured in IoT platform. So already cryptography plays an important role for the secure data or communication. Already we have discussed this in the previous class in the lightweight cryptography part. So today we'll go to the hardware Trojan part. We will discuss. Yeah, whether that new slide is visible to you all?
Yes, sir, visible.
Yeah. Thank you. Just we'll give 2 minutes and we'll start. Clear? Just a minute. We'll give 2 minutes break. Then again we'll start with this. Clear? Just 2 minutes break. We'll give and we'll start. Okay. Okay, so now we'll proceed with hardware Trojan prevention and detection techniques. So first we will see what is hardware Trojan. Here. So am I audible? Just confirm me so that we will proceed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. Okay, so a hardware Trojan, or in short, it is called as a HT, is a malicious intentional modification of an electronic circuit or design resulting in undesired behavior. Clear? So, we will repeat once again. Hardware Trojan is a malicious intentional modification of an electronic circuit or design using in undesired, it will do resulting in undesired behavior. Clear? So hardware Trojan may be introduced as a hidden front doors that are unknowingly inserted while designing a computer chip. Clear? So a hardware Trojan is completely characterized by its physical representation and its behavior. Clear? So the payload means what? What are that activities it will do? What are the malicious? What is payload of a hardware Trojan? The payload of a hardware Trojan, what are the malicious activities it will do? It's called as a payload of that particular hardware Trojan. Clear? So the payload of the hardware Trojan is the entire activity that the Trojan executes when it is triggered. When the hardware Trojan will be activated, triggered means it will be activated, then what are the malicious activities it will do? It is called as a payload of that particular hardware Trojan. Clear? Now next, this is a time bomb Trojan. It's a one type of Trojan. So what is time bomb Trojan? Time bomb Trojan disables a system at some future time. That means, for example, it sees that it watches that particular time. So if that particular time it will attain, then that particular time bomb Trojan will become active. Clear? That means it will be triggered. So for example, if you have taken a particular software for subscription for 1 year, so if that particular 1 year it's attained, then this Trojan will be activated. Clear? So that is time bomb Trojan example. So next it is data infiltration Trojan, leaks confidential information over a secret channel. Clear? So it can change the chip's functionality. It can also change the chip's functionality and thereby undermine trust in the systems using that particular chip. Clear? So may be inserted at any stage of the design and manufacturing process. The specifics, it may be RTL level, register transistor level, and manufacturing, supply chain, and most attention has focused on manufacturing. So inserted with the intention of being stealthy. That means it is most of the times it is inserted to leak the information, confidential information. So the two components are there in Trojan. What is first one is the trigger, and next is the payload. Trigger means when it will be activated, and what is the payload? What are the malicious activities it will do? That is called as a payload. So you can see a diagram here, the figure. So what it shows, you can see here we have a crypto hardware here. So, but it will this Trojan will bypass this crypto hardware. Clear? And it will pass the information. Clear? Okay. Now the difference between software Trojan and the hardware Trojan. Clear? So what is software Trojan and what is hardware Trojan? So what is, first of all, you will see what is software Trojan. A type of malware that resides in a code and activates during its execution. That is called as a software Trojan. For example, if you download a screensaver, So it seems to us a useful program. Once that particular scene, screen 7 will be downloaded in your computer, so inside that this software Trojan will be hiding. So once it is downloaded, it will start activating, and what it will do, it will take all secret informations like your pins and passwords. It will take and it will pass it on to who has created it. Clear? So what is software Trojan? So this software Trojan, it's a type of malware. Malware means malicious software that resides in a code and activates during its execution. Clear? And how infection it is, how it is done, spreads. The software Trojan spreads through user interaction, that is downloading and running a file from internet. So what is the remedy to remove this software Trojan? This software Trojan can be removed in field through software support. So most of your antiviruses also it removes this hardware Trojan, and specific software tools are also available to remove these software Trojans. But whereas if you will see this in comparison to the hardware Trojan, so hardware Trojan resides in hardware, that is the inside the integrated circuit and activates during its operation. Clear? And hardware Trojan inserted through entrusted entities in design or fabrication house. While designing that particular chip, they can include this hardware Trojan also without our knowledge. While in the fabrication house also, without our knowledge, they can insert this hardware Trojan inside the chip and they can fabricate it. So how this hardware Trojan will be removed? This hardware Trojan cannot be removed once integrated circuit is fabricated. Clear? So whether slides are changing? Yes, whether slides are changing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So what is a threat? What is a threat? Electronic plays an important role in storage and communication of confidential information. Clear? So management and control of important equipment and critical national security applications and systems. Clear? So because of globalization, chip design and fabrication are increasingly vulnerable to malicious alterations. Clear? So different Trojan types. So first one is the functional. What is that? It can be addition, deletion of the components and modification of components functionality. If it is parametric, it can damage reliability or increase the likelihood of performance failure and thinning of wires on the chip and weakening of transistors or logic gates. Then modification of power distribution network it can do. Next, the size of, if we'll see the size of hardware Trojan, so it can be big functional blocks and sophisticated time bomb, and it can be a powerful antennas. So you'll ask me why these powerful antennas? The powerful antennas are mounted in order to transmit the signals, in order to transmit informations. Clear? So depends. See, the size of this hardware Trojan depends on availability of dead spaces. So already I have discussed this one. So depends upon the dead spaces of on the wafer. That means a design, how you have designed. So that's why while designing, it should be such a optimum that there should not be much dead space on the silicon area. If there are much dead space, it is there in the on the wafer, so it gives a flexibility at the fabrication unit to put this hardware Trojan, fabricate hardware Trojan in that particular dead space. So while designing, we should take care and we should not keep this leave these dead spaces. Clear? And how will be the layout? The adversary may be forced to regenerate the layout to be able to insert. So what layout we have given to the fabrication unit, so they can also change it, the layout, in order to insert the Trojans. So that adversary may be forced to regenerate the layout to be able to insert the Trojan, then the chip dimensions. Clear? So a change in physical layout can change the delay, power, characteristics of the chip. That's why we are using these parameters to check without damaging the chip whether that particular chip it contains hardware Trojan or not. Clear? So next it is distribution. It can be tight or centralized or big, or it can be loose and distributed and small. Clear? So we can see this modern IC development life cycle. So it's different color it is given. It is trusted, untrusted, and either it can be trusted or it can be untrusted. So first one is the specification. Then next is the designing in hardware description language codes. Then next, this is the front end. These are the front end. This is the back end. So next is the design validation. And next is the physical synthesis. So based on that, you can see which can be trusted and which can be untrusted. So next it is the fabrication. Fabrication is done in the fabrication lab. So in the fabrication lab, it can be trusted or also it can be untrusted. Yeah. Then next the device testing and assembly and deployment. So next it is taxonomy. So hardware Trojan can be inserted in insertion phase. Insertion phase means it can be the specification, design, it can be in fabrication, testing, and assembly and package. Similarly, in the abstraction level, it can be of system level, it can be development environment, it can be register transfer level, it can be gate level, it can be transistor level, it can be physical level. Similarly, the activation mechanism, it can be always on or it can be triggered. So it can be triggered means it is activated. So it can be always on, it can be triggered. So if it's triggered, it can be triggered internally, it can be triggered externally. So if it is triggered internally, it can be time-based internally triggered, or it can be physically condition-based internally triggered. Similarly, if it is externally, it can be based on the user input, or it may be, if it is externally, it can be based on the component output. Similarly, the effects. What are the effects? It can change the functionality, it can degrade the performance, it can leak the information, it can be denial of service. That means the legitimate user, will not use his own resources. Similarly, the locations where these hardware Trojans can be placed, it can be in processor level, it can be of memory. So how it can be processor level when you are designing SoC system on chip? So you are hiring the third-party IPs. For example, if you are hiring some third-party IPs like different processors developed by some other third party. So if you are putting outside SoC, so that particular design, it may have Trojan, hardware Trojan. So that's why the location, it may be in processor level, it can be in memory level, it can be in IOs, input out devices, it can be in power supply, it can be in the clock grid. Clear? So in insertion phase, in the specification, it may be a functional block, it can be the protocols, and in the design, it can be of third-party IP blocks. Thus, just now I was talking about this. Then it can be standard cells, it can be synthesis and simulation test. Clear? It can be hardware description language. So in the fabrication, it can be in fabrication, and it can be in mask and the fabrication, and in the testing, it can be test vectors and the automatic test equipments, and in assembly, it can be package and assembly, system assembly, and the system deployment. So the taxonomy in the abstraction level, in the system level, what it will do, it can change protocols, and it can modify the constraints. Clear? So in register transfer level, it can be change the logic. In the gate level, it can add and modify gates. So in the transistor level, it can modify parameters. So in physical level, it can modify wiring. Clear? So that effects or payload. So the payload, already we know what are the malicious activities it will do. That is called as a payload. So the payload is the action or damage that a hardware Trojan will do once it is activated. Clear? So it can the change and control functionality, the kill switch or time bomb. So ultimately the leak sensitive information, what is the side channels? What that is power, timing, and optical and thermal and electromagnetic emission. Clear? So reduce circuit reliability of lifetime. So it can be a parametric hardware Trojan. Clear? So it drain a resource from the system. So in the processing unit, it can change control of the system functionality in the memory structure after memory contents, monitor memory activity and leak information in the IO devices, control, modify and monitor data communication between chip and outside. If it is in power supply unit, so it can change power and current supply to cause failure or leak information. If it is in clock grids, then it will change the frequency to cause fault or failure, and timing and side channel information leak. Clear? So think as a hardware Trojan designer. So what is the motivation? The motivation of the hardware Trojan is target systems and applications and payload versus cost trade-off. Clear? So when and where and how to embed hardware Trojans. So how effectiveness it is, how stealthiness it is. So how much effective is your hardware Trojan? How much stealthiness means how much information it can retrieve, secret information. So what is the goal? It is for a given fabricated IC. Specification determine whether the IC has any hardware Trojan or whether the IC can be trusted or not. So result of hardware Trojan detection, the Trojan found IC is untrusted, but cannot say the design team is untrusted. Clear? So cannot claim in 100% trusted. So system does not have functional hardware Trojan. System may have parametric hardware Trojan. Clear? So the challenges in hardware Trojan detection. So versatility of hardware Trojan. So what the size, the location, the quiet, and different type and forms. Quiet means if it will keep quiet, dormant, and it will be activate with the specific conditions. So testing and verification tools fail. So conventional tools are for detect and false, not for intentionally added hardware Trojans. So this distinction between hardware Trojan and the noise. So errors from testing the hardware Trojan detection methods. So side channel noise and measure errors and functional noise and manufacture variations. So you can see next it is hardware Trojan detection methods. So the hardware Trojan detection approach is divided into, first one is the destructive and other one is the non-destructive. So what destructive means, totally that chip will be destructed. Clear? So in non-destructive type, it is divided into runtime, and next one it is the test time. In the test time, again it is divided into that logic test, and next one is the side channel analysis. So already we have discussed about that. What are those side channel analysis? So what that is, side channel analysis means power, then delay, then radiation. Clear? Then multiple parameters, mean more than one. Clear? By checking all these parameters, we can identify whether that particular chip it contains hardware Trojan or not. So first one is the logic test based hardware Trojan detection. So what is the idea? That is run different test vectors and monitor the circuits output and behavior. Clear? So why it works? If the hardware Trojan is triggered, its malicious payload or behavior will be observed. Clear? So full coverage test is impractical. Clear? So random test will fail if hardware Trojans are triggered by rare test vectors. Clear? So logic test is based on how to generate rare test vectors to activate hardware Trojan. Clear? Next, it is SCA, that side channel analysis based hardware Trojan detection. Clear? So the idea is to monitor side channel information during execution at test time. Clear? So why it works? Presence of hardware Trojan on chip will show some physical parameters and can be observed through certain side channel analysis. Clear? So may capture non-functional, but this type of side channel analysis based hardware Trojan may capture non-functional hardware Trojans. Clear? So may have high false alarms rate. So that means fabrication variations and measurement errors and modeling errors also. So now the comparison of logic testing and side channel analysis based Trojan detection. So what are the pros and cons? So logic testing, what is the pros? That is robust under process noise. That logic testing, and next one, the next one is what is the cons of this logic testing based hardware Trojan detection? That is difficult to generate text vectors, and large Trojan detection is challenging in the case of logic testing based Trojan detection. Clear? But at the same time, in the side channel analysis based Trojan detection, that is what are the pros? It is effective for large Trojans, and because whereas here this logic testing based Trojan detection it's not for the detecting the large Trojans, but whereas the side channel analysis based Trojan detection, it is effective for large Trojans and easy to generate text vectors. But here in logic testing based Trojan detection, it is difficult to generate text vectors. But here it's the side channel based analysis Trojan detection. It's effective for large Trojans, whereas also it is easy to generate text vectors. But at the same time, the drawbacks, that is cons of this side channel analysis based Trojan detection is it is vulnerable to process noise. But here the logic testing based Trojan detection is robust under the process noise. Clear? But here the side channel analysis based Trojan detection is vulnerable to process noise, and ultra small Trojan detection is challenging. But here the logic testing type of based Trojan detection is effective for detecting ultra small Trojans. So this is that the comparison of logic testing based Trojan detection and side channel based analysis Trojan detection. Clear? Now next it is prevention techniques. So prevention techniques are divided into, first one is the design level, it may be in the fabrication level, it may be of post fabrication level. Clear? So that in the design level it is divided again into two types of obfuscation technique, then next is the Popkenjak technique. Clear? In the fabrication level, it is module design and acquisition protocol, and in the post fabrication level, it is the metering approach. Clear? So let us discuss one by one. So prevention at design level. So during the design stage, hardware Trojans may be added by an adversarial member of the design team, by untrusted electronic design automation tools, that is EDA tools, or by including the untrusted third-party intellectual property modules in the design. Already we have told, if you are designing a SoC, the third-party IPs, that means somebody's microcontroller or some other other design that IPs, you can hire it and you can fabricate on your SoC. So the third party IP, it may also contain this hardware Trojan. Clear? So there are two techniques for protection of hardware Trojan in design level. That is already we have discussed. That is obfuscation technique, and we have next one is the Popkenjak technique, and we will discuss one by one. Clear? So then next we will go to design obfuscation technique. Clear? So obfuscation is a technique that transforms an application or a design into one that is functionally equivalent to the original, but is significantly more difficult to reverse engineer. Clear? So it operates in two distinct modes. So what are those two modes? First one is the normal mode and other one is the obfuscated mode. Okay, so now normal mode, its behavior is identical to its non-obfuscated version. Clear? But obfuscated mode, it is when circuit functionality is significantly different from the normal functionality. So this mode control is performed by the application of a specific sequence of an input vector or initialization called an initialization key sequence. Clear? And as a result of the obfuscation, the inserted trojans either become more detectable or decrease in potency by activating only the obfuscated mode. Clear? So modifications of this STG are implemented in RTL and integrated with the existing gate level description. Clear? So next it is the design, that Potkonjak technique. So development of technique for synthesis of trustable ICs using untrusted CAD tools. Clear? So specify the pertinent design in such a way that there is no room for the untrusted tool to add any malicious circuitry. Clear? So security synthesis paradigm has three dimensions. What are those? The next it is the three. The first one is a completely specified design at all levels of abstraction. Clear? Then next is full accounting of all resources at each step of the design process. The third, the last one, it is the complete and low latency observability and controllability of the manufactured design to ensure the trustability of the complete design flow. Clear? So next one is the prevention at fabrication level. So the problem in hardware Trojan is that it does not concentrate on the physical level of chip layout. Clear? But focus on instead on the security of third-party intellectual property modules. Already I will inform you what is third-party intellectual property modules. So also an attacker who makes malicious modification to the modules of SDL code in order to introduce the potential or undesired behavior. Clear? So this module may then be sold for use in a larger system which with the inclusion of the tempered IP. Clear? So becomes it's vulnerable to attack. Now next it is the prevention at post fabrication level. So the concerns that arise from IC fabrication fall into the three basic categories. That is, what are those? Next is the metering, the second was theft, and the trust. Clear? So an extra integrated circuits, that is extra ICs beyond the purchase order, have been produced. So whether unauthorized access to information has occurred and whether the IC has been tampered with. Clear? So in metering, we provide an improvement to combinational locking approaches by recognizing several shortcomings of previous schemes. Clear? So by increasing synthesis tool flexibility and establishing selection heuristics, we obtain a better security to overhead ratio and resiliency in the falls of an intelligent adversary. Clear? So, but hardware Trojan prevention and pre-synthesis. So ensure IPs, they do not have hardware Trojan or are trusted before you use them in your chip. Clear? So there are two approaches. That is, first one is that, what are those? That is a formal verification to check whether the IP meets the specification or not by property, model, equivalence checking. Clear? So the next one, it is the test and validation to make sure the delivered IP reliable meets all the specifications. That is traditional testing methods and hardware Trojan detection approaches. Clear? Next, it is hardware Trojan prevention at post synthesis. So in the post synthesis, that is removal of dead spaces, already we have discussed. Prevent direct hardware Trojan insertion. See, this removal of dead spaces, it prevents direct hardware Trojan insertion and limit big hardware Trojan. So while designing, we should not leave this much dead spaces on. So this dead spaces, it gives flexibility at fabrication side to include big hardware Trojans inside that. So the design, it should be optimum enough so that we can avoid much dead spaces. So that if the dead spaces are there, then it gives a flexibility in the fabrication to include the hardware Trojan there. So if you will remove these dead spaces, it prevents direct hardware Trojan insertion and limits big hardware Trojans. If there will be no dead spaces, how they will include big hardware Trojans? Clear? So circuit obfuscation makes reverse engineering harder. Clear? So shielding wires. So if you do shielding of wires, prevent hardware Trojan on EM radiation. If the wires are shielded, they cannot radiate electromagnetic emission. That's why we are using shielding wires to prevent hardware Trojan based on electromagnetic radiation. So if the wires are shielded, they cannot radiate electromagnetic radiations. Clear? Now next, it is interface protection, that is input-output pins, that is IO pins, and internal module interface, and that is power or clock, then scan chain. So control hardware Trojan triggers or monitor these interfaces. Next, it is hardware Trojan prevention in the specific prevention in specific techniques. So that is rare event removal. So the hardware Trojans use rare events as triggers. If we remove rare events, it will hard to activate the hardware Trojans. You should remember this. Now next, it is the pseudo register. Clear? So the path delay based hardware detection, hardware Trojan detection, that is path delay based hardware Trojan detection fails if we cannot measure the internal path delay. Clear? So in conclusion, this hardware Trojan, it is relatively it is a new field, and much work to be done in this field, and lot of research is going on throughout. Clear? And detection and mitigation and protection techniques for each hardware Trojan types, it is there. Then proactive defense, that is the best defense is a good offense. So collectively, this hardware Trojan taxonomy is a great resource. So possibility of malicious hardware modification extending to different stages of integrated circuit in the life cycle. So different levels of hardware Trojan obstructions. So hardware Trojans are relevant to various practices involved in the life cycle of electronic hardware, from system on chip designer to original equipment manufacturers to end users. Since hardware is hard to compromise, fundamentally more secure and trustworthy than its software counterparts, and hence can be used as trusted anchors or root of trust for diverse computing and communication system. So these are that references. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, so you can ask me. So it is now open for all to ask question.
Thank you,
Please
sir.
share the links. Which links?
Sir, actually, there was a network.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, any question? It's open to you all. Okay. I think there is no question from audience. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, audible. I think it is.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful session.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
If anyone having doubt, please ask. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank our today's speaker, Mr. B. Acharya, for sharing his experience and enlightening us with their knowledge. Today's lecture was full of knowledge and interesting things. It gave deep insights into the topic and also revealed some interesting facts. All are requested to join the next session from 1 p.m. onwards. Please join 10 minutes before the scheduled time. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, any
Thank
snaps you have to take, a snapshot or a photo you want to take?
Yes, please switch on your camera for taking screenshot. All candidates, please.
Yeah, please collect that screenshot.
सर प्रिंट स्क्रीन नहीं दिख रहा ये Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
ठीक है अपन ने वो सब तो